Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Give me those green check marks in Blackboard so that I know we are ready to begin and ready to start today. And Avery, I just saw you posting there on Blackboard. I was coaching last night. I coach at Spring Valley Middle, the grade 6-7 team, and I saw your mom in the stands, and I was like, what? Why is Avery's mom here? And then I realized you must have a sister that plays on the team that we were playing last night. So, yes. And you can tell your sister that she's a very talented basketball player. She killed us last night. Good. So I'm glad I'm seeing the green check marks there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. So we're going to continue on with our Heritage Fair and going to that next step. So some of you, a handful of you, created an essential question last day, and now we're going to actually delve in and start researching. And this is the biggest portion of a Heritage Fair project. All right. Now, today we're going to do, I'm going to give you lots of time. We're going to go through some quick knowledge-based applications here in class on the live classroom, you guys. And then I'm going to let you go and you guys are going to start researching. All right. Now, that being said, you have to have an established essential question before you guys can start researching. All right. So your essential question has to be approved by me. So there's a couple of you that I think I said, yeah, like go ahead. This is a great question. Go. You're good to go. There's a few of you that I said, we maybe need to look at this, just change the wording just a little bit to make it more of an essential question. And we'll do that today. All right. And then you guys can get going. Absolutely, Avery. If you don't think you've got enough information and you won't have access to enough information, this is the time to change your topic. Absolutely. All right. So, and you guys may find that as you go through and you start researching and investigating some sources, you're going to be like, you know what? I don't have enough information to answer this question. So you might have to switch, and that's totally fine. All right. So here we go. So today we're going to look at investigating sources, what makes a great resource, that sort of thing, how to access them, all of that. So your learning targets for this morning, ladies and gentlemen, are the following. I can execute a plan to research my project. Okay, so you can have a well laid out plan. You can also research your topic in an effective manner so that you're not wasting your time. All right, so those are your two things that I want you guys to focus on for today's lesson. Here's your agenda really quickly, guys. We're going to do a quick introduction. We're going to do a think, pair, share. We're going to do just watch a quick video around effective research and how we can use those tips in our own research strategies. Then obviously we're going to apply that knowledge by going out and finding resources and starting our research. And then I'm going to show you what your reflection piece is for this topic. So I want you to take 2 minutes to yourselves. Okay. We're not typing in the chat. We're just thinking about these 3 questions to ourselves in our own mind. How will you go about answering your essential question? What sources will you use? And how will you know if your answer is a good one? So in other words, is your answer accurate? Is it deep? Is it insightful? Is it original and thorough? Those are how you know that you've got a really good and you've delved into your topic and answered your essential question. I want you to take 2 minutes and just think about that on your own. Then we're going to pair up and we'll share out as the class as well. So take 2 minutes. How are you going to answer those questions with your partner? Go ahead, you guys. All right, perfect. There's your think time to yourself. Now what we're going to do is pair up and you guys are going to discuss those 3 questions in regards to your own thoughts. Okay. So I'm going to pair you guys up and just in the private chat, I want you guys to discuss those 3 questions. And I'm hoping that they might start triggering each of you into how you might start your research process. All right. So really quickly, let's pair up here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to do a little bit different. I'd like to go Abby and Taylor, if you guys can partner up, Alex and Taylor, and then Anna and Avery, and then Anthony and Ava. Okay. If you guys can pair up and start just private chatting, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. Okay. To have a conversation with your partner. And then we're going to share out to the class. All right. So 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead. Good, ladies and gentlemen. I still see the chat going, so feel free to please finish up your thoughts with your partner, all right? But the other thing I want to do now, you guys, is in the room chat, okay, what I'd like you to do is just share some of your thoughts in regards to those 3 questions, all right? So actually, I'll put the questions back up here. And in the chat, talk about what you and your partner talked about, all right? What sources we use. I think some of your question number 1 and question number 2 were very tied together, right? So I know some of you answered those ones together, and that's totally fine. So let's just come up with some ideas, because maybe as partners, you didn't think about what some of the other people actually talked about as well, all right? So talk about where you're going to find, how are you going to research, what kind of sources are you going to use, and also how do you know if your answer is a good one? I'm going to bring up your guys' chat here so that you can see. Absolutely. So I think the very first thing that you guys would talk about is the internet. Obviously, that is going to be one of your biggest aspects to use for your research. So the internet is definitely an option, right? But what else? Where else can we find information besides the internet? Good, Avery. Good, Alex. Good. Absolutely. So I know a few of you were actually talking about actually talking to experts in the field, right? So whether that's actually an interview process, you connecting with someone, right, who has the knowledge and the background within that, that's great. So when we talk about that, interviewing an expert, or you talk about viewing documentaries, all those different things, right? Absolutely. Those are some great resources that you guys need to tap into. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So books are another obvious, resource. Make sure you, and I'll go into some tips around researching as well, you guys, but we can bring it up now because Ava talks about primary sources. You do want to try to use a good combination of secondary and primary sources, especially depending on the lens that you guys are focusing on, right? Good. Yeah, absolutely. And going and talking to people, that's a really big one, right, Abby? Yeah. So Abby, I've got some links to some primary sources, but especially for you, Abby, in your research, actually connecting with an expert in the field, they might lead you to some primary sources as well, right? So that's a really a good suggestion for you to connect with those types of people. Okay. So definitely try not to limit it, you guys, to just the internet. All right. And don't get me wrong, the internet, you may find primary and secondary sources on the internet, but not just that. Also think about photographs, you guys. Photographs of that time period are a great way to extract some information, right? Thinking about those photographs. And I think that ties in to the last question, you guys. What did you guys talk about for your last question? How would you know if your answer is a good one? What did you talk about with your partner there? Good, Taylor. Yes. And that's a really good point too, right, Abby? Too, is that cross-referencing. So you might find evidence within your research that might not collaborate with each other, right? So that's really, really important. And which source is is better, right? You've got to take at it from a look at through that author's perspective, right? You got to start thinking like historians, right? Yeah, actually good. So you really want to back up your topic. You really have to have that depth of knowledge behind it, right? Because you are going to be presenting this. You need to be able to explain your topic, okay? And what you guys found out. And I know, from watching your guys' private chats too, making connections, right? That shows that you have that deep understanding. Can you connect it to today? Can you connect it to the past? Can you connect it to other things, right? Those are really big things as well. Yeah, and Ava, we'll be talking about that as well, doing that summary of what you learned and what you took away personally from this project. That's actually an aspect of the Heritage Fair model. So we'll be discussing that as well later on. Yeah. So Abby, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Can you make inferences as well from the information that you're receiving? It's that whole thinking like a historian, thinking critically about a situation. Okay. For sure. All right. So if we move on, ladies and gentlemen, now, within the assignment, I've given you a video that you need to watch, okay? And then in the room chat, I want you to complete the following phrase, okay? I used to think, and now I think. So is there something that changed in the way of your thinking after you've watched this video? All right. I believe the video is about 6-7 minutes long. So maybe I'll give you guys about 10 minutes to complete the video. And then in the room chat, I want you to use that phrase, okay, to describe something that changed your thinking around effective research. All right. So I'll give you 10 minutes. Go ahead and get started on that, ladies and gentlemen. Good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that you found this I used to think, now I think, a good resource for you guys, because I think you really hit some key points on the head here, right? With the advanced search. That's a great tip, right? That you guys can use. Anna, it is more expansive than you actually think, right? Another one that I noticed, I think it was Taylor, it was earlier on in the chat too, about Wiki. Yes, Wiki isn't as reliable as you actually think it is, right? And then that ties into Ava's point as well, right? That you do actually have to think about the author of the website. Is this really a reliable website that I'm using? Or is it somebody's opinion? Or is it, it has multiple authors that you can't verify, right? So you really do have to think about these things, you guys. That is part of thinking historically, all right? So I really do want to keep that video, you guys, in there for you guys to keep reminding yourself of those tips. Absolutely. Yeah, Wiki is not the most reliable source. Now, this is what I learned, and I don't know if it was in this video or another video that I watched, you guys, but this is what I learned about Wiki, okay? Is that if you search something on Wiki and bring it up, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, what there are, though, is a list of annotated resources, a bibliography of where people got their information from. And they've actually hyperlinked it. So if you actually go check out that bibliography or that annotated research, you might actually find some other great, reliable resources, right? So that's just a tip. So don't discount Wiki. Just don't take your information straight from Wikipedia. Another thing that I noticed too, you guys too, and I think it ties back into what Anna was saying too, Google isn't the be all end all, right? There are other search engines out there that will bring up different results, right? So try multiple search engines as well. Don't just use Google, Yahoo, Bing. There's lots out there. Okay. So that's another tip as well. So I'm just going to go back to my slideshow, you guys, so I can, now go through, some little bit of tips. So I really want you to delve into and go deep into the research process. Okay. That is part of the Heritage Fair. All right. But how do you accomplish this? Okay. So number one, and we touched on this, you want to choose sources, both primary and secondary, if possible. Okay. That are relevant to your essential question. In the assignment, you guys, I've actually linked catalogs of sources from the Heritage Fair website in the assignment. I've linked a catalog to secondary sources, and I've linked a catalog to primary sources. Now, that doesn't mean you will find anything in there, but those of you that want to take a look through there, some of your topics, you may find something in there, all right? If it's a little bit of more obscure topic, you may not find anything in the Heritage Fair catalogs, and that's fine. You just may have to look somewhere else. You really want to make sure, and this ties in to what Abby talked about earlier, you guys, you want to make those thoughtful inferences from primary sources. Okay, so if you are looking at, photographs or documents that occurred during the time of your project, okay, you want to be, they call it a superhero historian, and they use the CAPES method, all right? So you want to be looking at your context, okay? What was happening at the time this source was created, and how might that affect how you interpret this source? Okay, so really, and we used this earlier on, you guys, when we were looking at, when we were looking at some of our primary sources, we actually did talk about this. We just didn't put it into a mnemonic, okay? So not only context, but think about the audience. Who was intended to either see or read this at the time? And again, how much does that affect how we interpret it as an audience now, hundreds of years later, okay? What was the purpose? What was the author, photographer, creator setting out to do with this document or photograph, whatever it is? And again, how is that going to affect your interpretation? That comes back to getting into the author's head, getting into the author's mindset. What was the purpose that he was trying to do? Then looking at the evidence, does this source help answer your inquiry or essential question? And you guys will notice that I interchange that term, inquiry and essential. It means the same thing. All right. So how does this source help you? Or even does it? Is it related to your essential question? And then support. How does this evidence fit with any of the other evidence that you have? Does it support it? Does it not? Do we need to go back and maybe find some more evidence? Okay. So that's really, really important. Whenever you're looking at your research, keep this CAPES method in the back of your mind. Okay. Because it will affect how you interpret, your information. Also, consider context of the account and identify the author's position. That ties into what I just talked about, right? We did practice this earlier when we were looking at, in our First Nations unit, right? When we were looking at those primary documents with the treaties and stuff, we thought about what were the authors trying to get across this, right? And again, consult various sources if you need to cross-check your conclusions. Okay, come up with a consensus. Okay, and that's okay. If you find something that goes against what you thought, that's totally fine. You want to actually mention that in your project. Okay, that shows that deeper understanding and those connections that you're making to your project. All right. So those are some tips. Now is the time to start doing your own research on your essential question. Again, you must make sure that your essential question has been approved by me. So once we're done here, ladies and gentlemen, I will go back to my office and I will start chatting with you guys to really flesh out an essential question with you guys, because that's super, super important. All right. Now, I've also given you guys an organizer that the Heritage Fair organization has put together. If you really want to, and I'm not saying that you guys have to use it, maybe some of you have your own research methods of how you like to gather your information, but this is just one technique. Okay, I'm not going to limit you. You don't have to use this, but it is a strategy and a source for you guys to access to really organize your information. So feel free to download that. It is in the assignment as well. Now, let me tell you, this is going to be the longest part of the project, and you are going to have to do some work over spring break to do this research. All right. So as you do your research and go through this process, you probably are going to get frustrated and feel like that you're getting nowhere, or there's no end in sight. Okay. But there are numerous ways to help you deal with this. And I just wanted to give you guys some strategies so it didn't start stressing you guys out. Okay. Really writing and talking about how you're finding your answers to your questions, what sources you're using, actually does help. Okay. Writing in a journal or logging about your feelings and strategies that you may have used during this process helps. And obviously sharing with others your successes and frustrations helps during the inquiry process. So because of this, okay, I've given you, and that's what this, not assignment, what this is you guys, so I've given you an ongoing reflection throughout this process. I've made this the discussion forum, you guys, so that you guys can deepen your understanding together, provide resources for each other, or even vent some frustration that you're having. Okay. So I want you over spring break to be periodically checking back into the forum, you guys, to see if you can either gain further knowledge or resources. If you find a great resource, you guys, post it in the discussion forum because maybe somebody else can use it. All right. That sort of thing. Or ask some questions. If you feel like you're not getting anywhere, find out what other students are getting or how they're dealing with that. All right. So that's this stage of the project. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my office. I'm going to individually start chatting with each of you about your essential questions, and you need to start delving into some research. All right. So we'll give me about 10 minutes, you guys, and I'll head back to my office and get set back up into Blackboard. All right.